All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone, and welcome to today's session with your host and temporary guide and coach and friend and brother. I'll even go on to say the truth that I am you and you are me. We are one. And welcome again to this session of A Course in Miracles. Today we're going to be looking into workbook lesson 155. Wow, we're moving on up the ladder that the ego tried to lead us down, but we caught him. And now we have shed all allegiance to illusions and we're fully committed. We made a committed decision to honor the truth only, the truth that is true always. And at the basis of that truth is nothing that is real can be threatened. Nothing that is unreal exists. Therein lies the peace of God. And in that peace is our oneness with our Creator, which we call Father. We call our Creator Father. Why? Because a father represents that which what? That creates. And God created his one creation, which he called the Christ, or which he called the I am. And that creation was merely an extension of himself. And we are that extension, you and I, and all humanity. Any other ideas outside of that reality are just illusions. That's it. It's that simple. Nothing to be serious, to get overly serious about, or to get upset about. That just is, and that's unchangeable. It's unalterable. And ultimately, we all will come to that reality. That is what God calls salvation. That is guarantee that all that he created will realize its original name, its original nature, its original essence, its original self. And so with that said, today's idea informs us that I will. Boy, I like I am and I will. When you hear I am and I will, what comes after that is generally the truth that is true always. So today I will step back. I will step back and let him lead the way. The I that steps back would have to be what? That which is not real, which would be the illusion. So the illusionary self that I have made up will step back and allow him who? My real true self, my real God self, that which is all knowing, all powerful, all encompassing, that which is real, that which is true. We will let that reality lead the way. God is the way, God is the truth, and God is the life. God is our only reality, and we allow that truth to lead and guide our path today. That's our lesson for today. I will step back and let him lead the way. That's a decision that is made. That is the only decision to be made. And that is to give no more credence to my illusionary self and allow the self that God created to lead the way, to be expressed. And so it starts out by saying there is a way. So when the Course talks about a way, the Course is talking about reality. Jesus said, I am the way, I am the reality. So there is a way, there is a reality of living in the world. There's a way of living in this illusionary world that is not here, that is not in the illusionary world. There's a way of living in the world that is not in the world, although it seems to be. And let me break that down for you. Jesus said it this way. He said, I am in this world of illusion, but I'm not of it. In other words, I don't operate under its laws. I'm in it, but I wasn't birthed out of it. Jesus said it this way, I am in it. In other words, I'm aware of a body and a man named Jesus to parents Mary and Joseph. Just like all of us have that same experience. We come here through this, what we call birth process, born with an awareness of a body, and that's given a name. And within that body and that name, eventually, over in the space of time, has the experience of activities and events and the memories of that, only to come to a point in their life that they realize that there is something not quite right here. They come to the point where they say there must be a better there must be a better way of thinking, a better way of seeing. There must be a way of truth that if I knew, I'll be much happier. I'll be much more at peace. I would have purpose in my life, significance. I would be this great shining light. I would be fulfilled. I would be I would be content. But in this way that I'm on, which is pain and suffering and guilt and fear, this way can't be the way. And so all of us are here because we have chosen to come here. Your parents didn't choose you to come here. No, you chose, and I chose, and every other illusionary being that appears here in a body chose to come here. Through the process of dreaming or believing that there's something outside of my reality, and I want to know what it is. And so we come here in these embodied beings that are very temporary, very limited. And thus we make a world. But here it says there's a way of living in this world now, but there's a way of living in this world that is not here. That is not, in other words, that is not of this world, although it seems to be of this world. And we're going to explain that. It says, you do not change appearance, though you smile more frequently. Your forehead is serene. Your eyes are quiet. And the ones who walk the world as you do recognize their own. Yet, those who have not yet perceived the way will recognize you also and believe that you are like unto them as you were before. So what it's saying here is that when you wake up to the reality of the truth of your oneness with God, to the reality of the truth of that God is your reality and that you and God are one, that you present yourself in the person of God in this world. He said, when you do that and you become awake and enlightened in this world, he said, what you notice is that you don't just go off into, la la land because you woke up. No, it says you do not change appearance. You do not change appearance. So the person that is awake and the person that remains asleep, you can't tell the difference in them by just physically looking at them. In a sense, they both look the same. It says, you do not change appearance, though you smile more frequently. Now, here is a difference that it says that the person that is awake, he smiles more frequently. He smiles more frequently. He said his forehead is serene. It means that his forehead is relaxed. He doesn't look all tensed in the forehead. He's not all tensed up. He's not filled with anxiety. He's not fearful. The one that has awakened, he's more joyous. he's happy. In fact, in many cases, he seemed to be having more fun than all the rest. And so it says, you do not change appearance. Though you smile more frequently, your forehead is more serene. He said, your eyes are quiet. Meaning what? You're not like a deer in the headlight, hysterical, waiting on the shoe to drop. Confused. He said, you're not confused. You're not full of anguish. You're not afraid of the future. You're not holding to the guilt of the past. He said, this person is like he's free. He says, his eyes are quiet. And the ones who walk the world as you. And so those who walk the world awaken, he says, you recognize the others that are awakened. You're easily recognizable. He said, yet those who have not yet perceived the way, those who are still asleep, those who still believe in sin, that they are sinners, those who believe in sin, that sin is real when it's not, those who believe in guilt and holding on to guilt because of what they believe in a false self. He said, those who believe in fear, afraid of the future, believing that they're deserving of punishment. Those that see themselves as their life attached to their bodies. And so as the body goes, so as their life. He said, those who are still asleep to the reality of who they are. He said, yet those who have not yet perceived the way will recognize you also. So the sleep ones will recognize the awake ones. He said, and believe that you are like them, that we're still sleep like just like them. Because when you wake up to the truth, you still live a normal life. You don't become so heavenly minded. You don't become so, even though you are heavenly minded, but you don't become so detached that you can't help your brother. And so it says, he said, they believe that you're like them as you were before, because all of us at one time was asleep. But those who have awakened from the sleep, those who have been enlightened, there's a purpose for us to what? Remain what? In the dream. Like Jesus did. Jesus came here in the dream and remained in the dream for 33 years. Why? To help his brothers. To bring the message of the truth. To demonstrate the truth. To show that what? Eternal life is real. To show that what? Death is not real. To show that sickness and disease and all of the atrocities and all of the devastation that we see in the world, it is not real. It's only an illusion. And after he did that, then he what? He went on to his next what? His next iteration. So as we have awakened the dream, there's work for us to do. We talked about it yesterday, that we're among the what? Ministers of God. That we're here to serve humanity. And to what? Be a co-labor with God in the plan of salvation to help our brothers and sisters what? Wake up to the truth of who they are. Is this making sense? Do you see your purpose in life? Do you understand the path that you're on, the way that you have chosen? Jesus was called and has been called in other documents the way shower. So his life was to show the way, or like he said, to be the light. We are the light of the world. That's what it means to be that you are the light of the world. We become way showers once we have found the way, once we have discovered our own self, once we have remembered the truth. And it wasn't for us only, but it's for everyone. That's why it said in the previous workbook lesson that to give it away is to know that it is your own. To share it with all is that evidence that you really have accepted it for yourself. And that which you have received, give you to all humanity. That's the nature of love. Love gives. I hope this is making sense. So, there is a way in living in this world that is not here, although it seems. So the wake lives among the sleep, just like Jesus said. Don't what? He said, let the wheat and the tare grow together. That which is not real, what does not exist, it will eventually what disappear. And that wasn't a judgment on any part of humanity. No, it's just a statement of truth that eventually all illusions will dissipate. And when that happens, when that happens, all have realized that nothing has changed. Heaven is intact. God is intact. His family is intact. His children are intact. Eternity is well. And so it says the world is an illusion. Notice now, he says the world is an illusion. And he's not talking about the physical world in the sense that he's talking about the fact that when we embrace a false reality, when we embrace a false identity, that we are something else other than what God created. He said, that is the world. He said, and that's what's an illusion. Not talking about the physical things. They're only here because of the illusion. They're not the illusion. The illusion is the thought that brought it about. The purpose for which it was brought about. That's the illusion. That's the attack on reality. That's the attack on God. That's what it means when it said the world was created as an attack on God. Why? To keep the truth at bay. To keep reality what? Out of the sight of God's creation. To keep God's creation confused. To keep God's creation divided and separated. Fussing and fighting and divided. As we see in the world. And the world wants to keep that front and center. And all that comes from a thought system. So when he said the world is an illusion, that's nothing to be fearful of or afraid of. It's just speaking a simple truth. And it's speaking to the cause and not the effect. The cause is what? The belief in the tiny man ideal of separation. That's what needs to be corrected. That's what needs to be healed in our minds. That we're something separate from God. No, we are God, and God is us. So the world is an illusion. Any other thought other than that is an illusion, no matter where it comes from. Even if it comes from religion, it's still an illusion if it's not the truth. And religion is one of the largest proponents of the illusion that separation happened. And so the concept that God is outside of us, God is upstairs, God is in the sky, God is separate, God is different. No way we can match up to God. No way we can, we're just filthy rags. We're just, God is the only one. Jesus is the only one. We're just, that's a cop out. That is part of that's part of the illusion. That only part of us is right. There's only part of us are heavenly bound. That's only part of us There's only a few that are chosen. All that is part of specialness. God has nothing to do with specialness. God is an all-encompassing God. God has reconciled all humanity, all creation back into Himself. And so the idea of separation is an illusion. That's what it's saying here. He says, those who choose to come to it, those who choose to come in the dream of separation, those who choose to play the child game, the games of children of separation, those who choose to believe that we're separate, those who choose to believe that there's specialness, that there's inferiority and superiority. You see, those who choose to come to it are seeking for a place where they can be illusions. So it's a choice. Like I said at the beginning of this talk, we choose to come here to play the game of illusions. And it's sad because within that game is so much what? Suffering. We choose suffering over truth. It's insane, but that's what happens. And then we come here, we want to blame it on our parents. We want to blame it on what? Blame it on someone else. Blame it on a system. Blame it on whatever, circumstances, conditions. All that's part of what? Keeping the cover up going. It's a cover up and to keep it going. It's a big lie and to keep it going. It's designed to keep you from looking at the truth. But because of God's ministers, God's messengers, and God's message of salvation, which merely means He guarantees that you're coming out of that stupor. We're coming out of that place of blindness and sleep. He guaranteed that eventually we're coming out. And that guarantee that we're coming out, that's our decision too. We decide when we want to wake up. That's why if you read in certain traditional spiritual book, it says today is the day of salvation. Today, this very moment, this very second, it's just a decision that you make. You choose to embrace your true reality. You choose to embrace your loving Father, your Creator. You realize that, hey, that you have been imprisoned by a lie and you want to be set free. And you simply accept it. And it comes through a recognition. You recognize that you've been bamboozled. You've been deceived. You've been self-deceived for the most part. And you just decide, hey, I'm waking up from this, man. I'm walking into the reality of who I am. I'm going the way that is the only way. That's the way of truth. It's just that simple. And you don't have to erect big buildings. You don't have to build big ministries. You don't have to do any of that to try to, create a different plan than what God has. The plan is simple. One person at a time. As they decide that there must be a better way. And so he said, those who choose to come to it are seeking for a place where they can be illusions and avoid their own reality. So we come here to avoid reality. We leave reality to come to unreality, to play the game. And this game is very painful. The game is very painful until you wake up to the truth. It says, yet when they find their own reality is even in what? Even in the world, even in sleep. You can rediscover yourself within the dream of separation. Everyone that comes here thinking that they're coming here to escape reality, but they're coming here to reconnect with their reality. He said, then they step back and let their reality lead the way. Once we find the reality of who we are, we don't continue on as with our illusionary self, with our what? With our false identity of a separated bodily self. That's not who we are. That's not what we are, and that's not why we are. But then in that moment, we step back. The false self step back and allow our reality, our oneness with God and what our oneness with each other, what to lead the way. We become the followers of the way. What when we talk about the way of the truth? The way, the truth, and the light. The abundant life. The life of oneness and joy and happiness and peace. The life where we see the face of Christ in all humanity. The life where we now lay down our arms, we lay down all our defenses. And we begin to, in our defenselessness, begin to experience what the safety, begin to experience the joy and the happiness and the peace. And whatever choices you make while you remain here, whatever activities or events you decide to participate in, whatever relationships you decide to build, this is what you bring to it. You don't go to any of those things looking for something. No, but you bring everything to it. Everything to whatever you've made a commitment to. You bring all the truth to it. You become the one that's living in the world in a way that you're not of the world. You become the one that lives in a way. You become the one that whether you're on your job or at home or in the community, no matter what you are doing, loving your wife, loving your children, working for a corporation, working for yourself, volunteering, going to a movie, going to a concert, watching a show, washing your body, bathing, cooking, whatever you're doing. You bring that reality to those events and activities. You don't do them to look for anything. You are the source of everything. That's what happens. That's what changes in your thinking. And so your perception of this physical world totally change to the point where it affects the way you feel. Like it said here, it affects the way you look. It affects the vibration that is emulating from you. It affects your nature. It affects your relationships. It affects the peace that you carry, the joy that you bring. This is wonderful. So we step back and we let what? Reality lead the way. What others choose, or what other choice is there to make than to, once we wake up, to step back and let our Christ self lead the way, and let our illusionary self that we made to step back. To let illusions walk ahead of truth is madness. So for anyone that wakes up to the knowing of the truth and decide what? To run back to the false self, he said that's madness. And we do that each time that we choose what? The limited self over our infinite self, over our God self. We do that each time when we choose to what? Become afraid of love and to think of ourselves and others in a way that is not reality. We do it each time. When we become fearful, when we become afraid, that's an indication that we have allowed our minds. We have allowed the false self. We have allowed the illusionary self to lead the way. He said that's madness. But to let illusion sink behind the truth and let the truth stand forth as what it is merely sanctity. So our sanity is within our decision to choose, to allow our Christ self, to allow our God self, to allow our infinite self, our sinless self, our guiltless self, our fearless self to lead the way, to be front and center in the way we show up in the world every day, to be forgiving and loving. And I say to be a doormat now. That's not what I'm saying. But when we walk without the need to defend ourselves, remember, in our defenselessness lies our safety, lies our joy, lies our peace. Others will recognize it. Others will recognize that something is there, and they will want to investigate that. It says, this is the simple choice that we make today and every day. The choice to allow what? The choice to allow our true self to lead the way. Our Christ self to lead the way. And allow that self that we had made, that we realized was an illusion, allow it to what? Step back. Get back, Jack. No, my God self got this. My loving self got this. My real self, the real you, who loves me, got this. No more what? No more pain, no more suffering. No more what? Insanity. No more foolishness. No more madness. You're not leading. Get back, Jack. Sometimes you have to say it like that. This is the simple choice we make today. The mad illusion will remain a while in evidence. Notice now he said the residual effect of the mad illusion will remain a while until you renew the mind, until you become so dedicated and vigilant and committed about the truth that is true always, until you learn how to honor the truth in every moment. He says the illusionary self will remain a while in evidence for those to look upon who choose to come and have not yet rejoiced to find they were mistaken in their choice. In other words, when we wake up, we're not taken out, but we're left in so others can choose like we have. They cannot learn directly from the truth because they have denied that it is so. And so they need a teacher who perceives their madness. Notice now, this is what an awakened messenger of God does, a teacher of God. We stay within the dream and we perceive their madness, but we still can look beyond their illusionary self to the simple truth of who they are. I see who you really are. When you wake up, you see who people really are, in the sense that you see them as yourself. You see them sinless and guiltless and fearless and the loving beings that they are. When you wake up, you see them for who they truly are. Even though you recognize the madness and the illusion that they're showing up as, but you understand that it's only illusion. It's not their true self. So you can have much mercy, much compassion on those that are still remaining in the place of suffering. We look beyond. the illusion to the simple truth in them. When you can see the face of Christ in everyone, that's what it means. Then that means that you have remembered God. That means you have remembered yourself. That means you have remembered the truth. So it says, if truth demanded that the sleep give up the world, if the truth came as a demand, God is demanding you get saved or go to hell. That's the line that's the line that is used in fear-based theology. Get saved or you're going to hell. That means that God is threatening you. See, that means that God is demanding, making a demand on you. I'm the God, and I demand you to do what I say. No, that's not reality. That's not love. He said, if truth demanded that you gave up the world, it would appear to them as if it acts the sacrifice of something that is real. Think about that. If God made a demand on you to be saved, to obey me, heed my commandments, he would be asking you to make a sacrifice. And make a sacrifice of something that you believe that is real. But that's not the plan of salvation. That's not God's way. We have tried that way in humanity, and it doesn't work. He says, many have chosen to renounce the world while still believing in its reality. So in that idea of giving up the world in order to receive God, that's not the way either. That doesn't work. That hadn't worked either. Religion have tried that for thousands of years and it doesn't work. See, God has a plan for salvation. And only God's plan for salvation will work. What we have concocted as man's way of salvation, it doesn't work. You can't use fear-based theology. You can't use a fear-based method to bring love. Only love can birth love. And so God's plan for salvation is the truth, to tell the truth. I am you, you are me. We're one. That's the truth. But God, what about? God said, that's all that was an illusion. How can that which is perfect become a sinner? He says, impossible. How can that which is real can become unreal? He says, impossible. He said, how can that which is a part of me be any different from me? He said, it's absolutely impossible. How can that is what I extended, not be equal with me? He says, it's impossible. That's God's plan for salvation. When we recognize that we've been in error in our thinking, that we've been conditioned by this world, by a thought system that is totally opposite of the representation of the creator of love. When we recognize that and realize that we were being deceived, we make a different choice. It's just that simple. You don't have to do anything else. You don't have to go anywhere. You don't have to hear it from anyone. You don't have to go in the water. You don't have to go under the water. You don't have to get words spoken over you. None of that has to happen. It only takes a recognition on your part. All else is man requirements. He said, and they have suffered from a sense of loss and have been released accordingly. Others have chosen nothing but the world. Others have chosen just to stay asleep. Man, don't wake me up. I love I love pain and suffering. I love feeling good for a moment. Don't wake me up. He said, others have chosen nothing but the world, and they have suffered from a sense of loss still deeper than the ones that felt forced to change. He said, which they did not understand. No one understands pain and suffering. No one understands loss. Why? Because it's so unnatural. It's not natural. It's unnatural. For suffering and pain and loss, that is unnatural. Unnatural, why? Because it's not the nature of God. It's not our true nature. So we're born into a world of what? Suffering and pain and loss. But it's not the real world. It's an illusion. Between these paths, the path that what? You must do it, and the other path that I'm going to do it, but I really miss it. And then the other path is I ain't doing nothing. I'm staying in it. Those are three paths that, really that we are choosing in the dream. And here it says, between these three paths, there is another road. Notice now, there's not a path, but a road. There is a road that leads away from loss of every kind. There's a road that leads away from the belief in sacrifice. There's a road that leads away from deprivation. Both are quickly left behind. They're quickly left behind. The other three are what? Quickly left behind when we get on the road that God has what? Laid for us. When we allow our real reality, our true self, when we allow our infinite self, our God created self, our sinless, guiltless, fearless self to lead the way, everything else steps back. Loss, sacrifice, guilt, sin, fear, it steps out back. Why? It's like when you turn the light on in the room, what happened to the darkness? It steps back. When you embrace the reality of who you are, that false self steps back. It steps back. And you show up like everyone else still. They just notice what? The smile on your face, the serene forehead, the quietness in your eyes. They feel the sense of peace within you. They sense this certainty that you're walking in. They sense the gladness and the infinite expectation that you have in life. They notice the boldness and the confidence about you. That is not boastful or arrogant, but it just is. You can't explain it. It's like the wind. They feel and sense and know the effect of your presence, but they cannot see where it comes from, and they don't know where it's going. Like Jesus said to Nicodemus, you must be born again. In other words, you must choose this road. That's all he was saying. So between these paths, there is a road that leads away from loss, sacrifice, and deprivation. This is the way appointed to you now. This is our appointment. Ephesians 1 said, we, from the foundation of the world, from the very foundation of the world, God had chose us or appointed us to be what? Holy and without blame before him in love. Irreprovable, unblameable in his sight. That is what he's talking about here. This is the way appointed to you now. You walk this path as others walk. Nor, it says, you walk this path as others walk, nor do you seem to be distinct from them, although you are indeed. You're in the world, but you are not of it. You're not seeing the same thing. You're not saying the same thing. You're not perceiving the same thing. You see something totally different. You sense something totally different. You feel something totally different. You begin to say something totally different. Thus can you serve them while you serve yourself, and set their footsteps on the way that God has opened up to you, and them through you. So we become what? We become what? The way. Remember, Jesus said, I am the way. Once you wake up, you become the way, the truth, and the life. And he's not talking about you personally as an individual. He's talking about the one way that God has set for all of us. You become what? Representative of that. You become an ambassador of that. You become what? The light of the world. He says illusions still appear to cling to you. They appear to cling to you. Why? Because you still what? Because there's still an appearance of a body, of a limited self, from the perspective of those that haven't awakened. They see you as they do. That you may reach them. It's only because what? So you to reach them. You will reach your brother. You want your brother to wake up. He's having a nightmare. It has stepped back, but that self has stepped back, and it is not illusion that they hear you speak of, nor illusion that you bring their eyes to look on and their minds to grasp. Nor can the truth, which walks ahead of you, speak to them through illusions. For the road leads past illusions now, while on the way you call to them, that they may what? Follow you. You remember Jesus said, come and follow me. That's how he assembled his original 12 disciples. They saw something that they said, what is this? What kind of man is this? And he said, what? Come and follow me. And he showed them the way. So when you wake up, your life becomes that light that people know that something is up. Something is up with this dude. And you say, come and follow me. Come and follow me. Not me, the old self, but come and follow the path that I'm following. Come and embrace the atonement for yourself. Come and embrace the reality of your sinless and your guiltless and your oneness with God. He says, nor can the truth, which walks ahead of you, speak to them through illusions, for the road leads past illusions now, while on the way you call to them, that they may follow you. All roads will lead to this one in the end. In other words, everyone is going to eventually wake up. That's the guarantee that God has made to himself. So if you're still looking from the illusionary self and say the world is going to hell in a handbasket, which it does appear to be that way with everything you see happening. But remember, what you're looking at is falsity. It's not reality. But he says, all roads will lead there to this in the end. Everyone's going to wake up. So all he's saying is what? Choose you this day. Today is the day. You can begin to walk in this way. For sacrifice and deprivation are paths that leads nowhere. Choices for defeat. Yeah, choices for defeat and aims that will remain impossible. Only the will of God shall prevail, is what he's saying. All these steps, all this depravity, defeat, sacrifice, he says all this steps back as truth comes forth in you and lead your brothers from the ways of death to set them on the path of happiness. Their suffering is but illusion, yet they need a guide to lead them out of it, for they have mistaken illusions for the truth. Such is salvation's call, and nothing more. So all of this that we're doing here at Truly Foundation, all of the sharing of advanced spirituality, is but salvation call, and nothing more. Not trying to get anything from you. We're trying to give you everything that you already are. It asks that you accept the truth and let it go before you, lighting up the path of ransom from illusion. The truth is your ransom from the illusion. It is not a ransom with a price, not like in the world. There is no cost, but only gain. There is no cost, but only gain. Illusion can be but seen to hold in chains the Holy Son of God. It is but from illusions that we're saved as they step back and find himself again. So when you find yourself, when you finally find yourself, to find God is to find yourself, or to find yourself is to find God, because y'all are one. You come to find out they all are one and the same. All illusions in that moment steps back. Walk safely now, yet carefully, because this path is new to you. Okay, so when we first get in it, it's new. So he said, walk what? Carefully. That means what? There needs to be a dedication to renewing the mind, to breaking away from the habits of being conformed to this world. So there's a period, there's a time that you have to engage in your what? In bringing the mind in alignment, which is why we're going through these entire 365 days. You say, well, why so long? We have lived 1,000 lifetimes where we have learned to conform to this world. But we don't have to live 1,000 lifetimes to come to know the truth. It happens in an instant. But even in the instant, to help what? To help push, fight, place Christ, your Christ self forward and all the illusions backwards. That's why we go through the workbook lessons. We're shifting our paradigms. We're exchanging. We are reprogramming ourselves in a way that it aligns with truth. And many are not willing to make that investment. And that's why you see them vacillate back and forth, which is even more painful to know the truth. And then he said, and then they crucified the Son of God afresh by playing the illusionary game. And so he says, there is no cost, but only gain. Illusions can be seen, but seem to hold in chains the Holy Son of God. Walk safely now, yet carefully, because this path is new to you, and you may find that you are tempted still to walk ahead of truth and let illusions be your guide. Your holy brother has been given you to follow in your footsteps as you walk with certainty of purpose to the truth. It goes before you now that they may see something with which they can identify, something they understand to lead the way. See your importance now? See your purpose in life? Yet at the journey's end, there will be no gap, no distance between truth and you. Why? Because you realize you are the truth and you put it on full display. And all illusions walking in the way you travel will be gone from you as well, with nothing left to keep the truth apart from God's completion, holy as Himself. Step back in faith and let truth lead the way. You know not where you go, but one who knows goes with you. Let Him lead with the rest. When dreams are over, time has closed the door on all the things that pass, and miracles are purposeless. The Holy Son of God will make no journeys. There will be no wish to be illusion rather than truth. And we step forth towards this as we progress along the way that truth points out to us. This is our final journey, which we make for everyone. We must not lose our way, for as truth goes before us, so it goes before our brothers who will follow us. We walk to God. Pause and reflect on this. We walk to God. Pause and reflect on this. That walk to God becomes a walk in God, or as a walk as God. Could any way be holier or more deserving of your efforts, of your love, and of your full intent? What way could give you more than everything, or offer less and still content the Holy Son of God? We walk to God. We walk in God. And we walk as God. The truth that walks before us now is one with Him and leads us to where He has always been. What way but this could be a path that you would choose instead? Your feet are safely set upon the road that leads the world to God. Look not to ways that seem to lead you elsewhere. Dreams are not a worthy guide for you, who are God's only creation. Forget not, He has placed His hand in yours and given you your brothers and your sisters in His truth, in His trust, that you are worthy of His truth in you. He cannot be deceived. His trust has made your pathway certain and your goal secure. You will not fail your brothers nor yourself. God has placed Himself. God has assured and guaranteed that our self is His self. And that's why God trusts that we will what? Not fail, but we will succeed at being what? The light of the world. We will not fail in our role as ministers of God. We will not fail in our commitment to all humanity, to see the face of Christ in all our brothers and sisters, which is evident that we have remembered God. He say, so what? He say, you will not fail your brothers and sisters, nor even yourself. God guarantees it. And now He asks but that we think of Him a while each day. That we think on these things. These things that are good, that are holy, that are complete, that are sure, that are accurate, that are perfect. And that He may speak to you and tell you of His love, reminding you how great His trust, how limitless His love. That's what God is telling us today. And my love is great. And my love is limitless, and my trust is great. I'm a God that cannot lie. You remain as I created you. So, in our name, in our nature, and in God's, which we share, which are the same. See, we practice gladly with this thought today and this thought alone. So, this is our thought for today as we go through our day. I will step back and let him lead the way, for I would walk alone the road to him, or I would walk along the road as him. Oh, what a wonderful lesson. What a wonderful idea. What a truth that transforms, and that is true always. So as you go through your day, we spend the time during the day thinking of the reality that never changes, that's never altered. Understanding our role, accepting our role, understanding our purpose, understanding who humanity is, understanding the love that we share with one another, understanding and embracing and being grateful for our Creator, whose love is unlimited, who has created us immaculate, and has given us a call, has given us a purpose that is beyond anything that this world can offer. How great thou art. Wow. This has been wonderful. Thank you so much for being here. I really mean that. Thank you for realizing the need to bathe yourself each day in these truths so that you don't vacillate back and forth, but that you be strong and very courageous about the truth that you are. For you are as God is, and God is as you are. Have a great day, and we'll be back on tomorrow. Thank you so much. We love you.